Hey there, lovely people. Welcome back to another Story Study Saturday. I'm Sammy, and I'm a writer who likes to learn about writing through reading and share what I learn with you. So this week I want to talk to you about A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This has been a very popular book on social media. A lot of people have recommended it, and it's pretty highly rated. It's basically about a girl who is a very great student. She's really good at doing all of her schoolwork and being really smart, and her senior project in high school is her trying to discover the honest story behind a murder-suicide that happened in the city years before that she does not believe was a murder-suicide. She doesn't believe that the person who was given all of the fault for both deaths is actually the person who did it. So she is looking into it herself to do some research for her senior project and also for her peace of mind of knowing that the person that they set all of the blame on was actually a nice person and she doesn't think he did it. She wants to find what she can about who actually did it and why they framed him, why the police stopped looking into it, that kind of stuff. I will say I don't normally like mysteries, but I think I enjoyed this one based on the same thing that is the reason why people who like mysteries lean towards not liking this book, which is it doesn't really follow like any logic in terms of how a mystery should actually go storytelling wise. The story is based more around the people in it than it is about solving the mystery. And I think that that's super interesting personally because I often don't really care about the crime that's happened. I don't want to solve a crime because the crime makes me sad and then finding out who did it just makes me mad at humanity, and that leads to me not enjoying the experience. So I usually lean away from mysteries personally, but this one did do a very good job of making it about the people who are surrounding the mystery rather than the mystery, the question itself. I also really enjoyed that the motivation for solving this mystery is because she wanted to, not because she had to. That leads to a more genuine experience from my perspective of solving this mystery than if you were required to do it. Like, you're a detective, your job is to solve mysteries. If you're a private investigator, your job is to solve mysteries. Like, sure, you can love your job, and you can want to do your job, but you still need to do your job. Whereas Pippa, the main character of this story, did not have to do this. She could have done her senior project on anything else, and in fact was encouraged to do so by many people in the community. I also loved Ravi. He was really bland when he was first introduced, but once he was a main player in the story, it was really great, and I really enjoyed it. I also don't know if it's just my lack of interacting with mysteries very often, but I never would have guessed who did it. And that was a really great experience for me because there's been a lot of books that I've read that I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what the twist is going to be even before the twist comes. I know what's going to be because I read a lot of books in this particular genre. I don't read any mysteries, so I did not expect who it ended up being, and that's pretty cool. I really enjoyed that. In terms of what I think could be improved, you have to really suspend your knowledge of how logic and reality works to get into this book because there is a lot of stuff that happens that just would not go down in the real world if they were to attempt to solve a murder in the same way that Pippa does. There is no way that things would line up the way that they do in this book. So you definitely have to suspend your belief for a lot of situations where it's like, oh yeah, Pippa's just gonna go talk to this person who has something to do with the burying of this case and they're just gonna tell her about it. No, probably not. You may let down your guard a little bit for a teenager who's doing a school project, but you wouldn't let out as much as these people do. And because of that, you have to really be like, yes, so this is how the world works. Pippa can get any information she needs for a certain length of time. People will answer her questions for a certain length of time, and then they'll be like, wait a second, I shouldn't be telling you these things, which is fine. It's fine once you get used to it. You do have that moment where you're like, why are you telling her that? Even though it helps progress the story. You get that, like, this isn't how the real world works. And it's not. It's not at all how the real world works. This would never have worked in real life. But it is a fun story, so we will give them that. I also don't think Pippa is really well developed in terms of who she is as a character. I think her whole character is pretty stereotypical just to fit this concept of what the story was meant to be. It feels like the title was figured out before the full concept or the characters were developed. So like we've got a good girl's guide to murder. And then Pippa is this amazing student who is like never goes out to parties, doesn't drink, has some friends that show up. That's another point. And she doesn't really have any qualities about her besides the fact that she thinks she's a good girl, but then she goes around breaking the law to solve this mystery that she is not required to solve. So there's this disconnect between her actions and her self-perception and this lack of depth that is around her as well. There are also a lot of characters that are just in this story who don't impact it at all, especially Pippa's friends. Because Pippa's got a group of 6. She's in a group of 6. There's 3 boys, 3 girls. We interact with the girls a few times. I'm cool with the girls. They provide enough value for me in the story that I enjoyed it. But the boys did not do much of anything. They're there. They're like, yeah, we've got friends that are boys. And that's pretty much all they're good for. They get them into a party, but you can easily put that usefulness into one of the female friends and not have it be something that you need 3 extra people for your reader to keep track of when we don't need to keep track of them. You completely forget about them and then they come back and you're like, oh yeah, they're here. And then you completely forget about them again. And then they're at the end. So it's like, do we need them? No, you definitely could have cut out some of the people who weren't necessarily helping establish Pippa as a character to the readers or helping Pippa establish her solution to the mystery or even throwing a wrench into the mystery, because there are several people who are just sort of there, who don't help, who don't hurt, but we need to keep track of them for some reason. And I'm always one for having moments with your characters that aren't necessarily directly correlated with the overarching plot. Having those moments to just connect your character with your reader emotionally can be really beneficial to your story, but having characters that are side characters that don't really matter be a part of those moments that you're just using to connect your reader to your characters don't help. I would say that they hurt the story because it's just unnecessary filler at that point. So what can we learn from this story? We can learn to assess the value of our characters so that you don't have side characters coming in and going out the same way that the friends of Pippa do. We can also learn that the motivation for your story can become much stronger if it's something internal that the readers can relate to rather than something external that is directly impacting the characters and cannot be manipulated into something that the reader will feel with them. By that, I mean having something that's motivating your characters, like, I want to find out who killed these people because I don't think that the person they said did it. I think they were a nice person, and there's nothing that's stopping me from doing this besides myself. So I'll do it. That's motivation that can be more relatable, where it's, I'm trying to defend a friend versus motivation coming from like a save the world kind of perspective. I need to solve this, otherwise we're all gonna die, or something along those lines. It's not going to be something that the average person can completely empathize with, which makes it a little bit harder for them to dive into the story. Having that motivation be something that can be easily empathized with can make your story have a longer impact on the readers who have read it and become some people's favorite books. So that's something to keep in mind. That is all I've got for you today. So those are all of my thoughts on A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. If you've read the book, you should leave a comment down below telling me your thoughts about it. We can have a little chat. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. It'll really help me out and show YouTube that maybe more people will enjoy this video. And if you want to see more videos like this one, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell next to it, and I will see you every time that I upload, which are Tuesdays and Saturdays. Tuesdays for Writing Tip Tuesdays, and Saturdays, of course, for Story Study Saturdays. So I will see you guys on Tuesday for a Writing Tip Tuesday, and back again on Saturday for another story study.